Hello everyone and welcome to Chords Academy new lecture on AS and A levels business subject. We are learning chapter number 1 and that is enterprise, and in the previous videos we discussed about business and entrepreneurship and the characteristic of successful entrepreneur, etc. So if you did not watch the previous videos, I would recommend you to go and watch those videos as well. In the continuation of the previous videos, today we will be discussing about why do new businesses often fail. This is today's topic, and one of the reasons why do new businesses often fail is lack of record keeping. By record keeping, we mean that every business or enterprise is required to maintain its records. Those records might be related to customers' information, financial statements, agreements and contracts, etc. So, if the organization or business does not maintain appropriate record or accurate records, that might be one of the reasons why do these type of businesses fail. Because every organization and business is required to maintain the record for transparency purposes, and you can think of a very big agreement that is entered into between a company or business and its supplier, and let's suppose the value of the agreement is $10 million. And if after entering into the agreement with the supplier, let's suppose company or business loses the agreement or the copy of the original agreement is lost, so this might be a very much difficult situation for that business or enterprise. So therefore, every record is to be considered as relevant and critical, and all the records are required to be kept in a safe and appropriate manner. Sometimes entrepreneurs or businessmen do not pay sufficient attention on the record keeping requirements, and because they are involved in meeting their customers' needs, which might cause the delay or ignorance of record keeping, and they might often think that everything is the customer, and they do not pay attention to the record keeping because the business is new, and so their focus is mainly on towards gathering the customers and capturing new customers or serving the existing customers. So due to this ignorance, they forget one of the main requirements of the business, which is record keeping. Now there is another reason why do businesses fail, and that is lack of cash and working capital. Every business requires cash or working capital for day-to-day operations and business activities. So if the business does not have or if the business does not has the sufficient working capital to run the business affairs on daily basis, so the business might fail because the business is new. They might not be in the position without cash to meet their obligations, and the obligations might be to pay their suppliers, or to pay the installments of the banks and to pay the salaries of the employees, etc. So lack of cash and working capital is also one of the reasons why do new businesses often fail. So serious working capital deficiencies can be avoided or mitigated by the new businesses, but the important steps to be taken are like construct a cash flow forecast. Every business or organization has to prepare or construct a forecast of cash flows, and because if the cash flow forecast is prepared, the owner of the business or enterprise would be in a position to assess the liquidity requirements or cash requirements for the upcoming period, and they will act accordingly, and they will take on the obligations which they will be able to pay, or they will avoid all those obligations which their cash flow forecast does not permit. So if the examiner asks you a question in your CAIE examination about writing some very simple steps to avoid the working capital deficiencies, so these bullets are relevant for your answer. So number one was the business owner is required to construct a cash flow so that the liquidity and working capital needs of the businesses can be assessed in advance. Number two is inject sufficient capital into the business at the startup. When the business is going to be started, so the business owner, or you can say the entrepreneur is required to inject sufficient amount of capital to meet the short-term liquidity requirements. It is a notion, or it is a supposed thing, that every business or enterprise is required to keep a buffer of at least 2 years when they start a new project or new company or enterprise. So if a businessman is starting a new business, so he or she is required to ensure that she or he has invested capital of sufficient amount to meet at least 2 years obligations. But if the organization is pursuing, or if the business owner is pursuing that, and the obligations would be very less, so a few months operations related requirements, or you can say a few months working capital can also be maintained. Like if the business is very small and the obligation would be very small, like for example, if a home based bakery is a new business, so we know that the bakery is being run from the home, therefore there would be no rental cost, there would be no additional overheads or electricity expense, so the working capital requirement would be low. But at the same time, if the bakery business is a particular retail outlet, so we know that the business owner would be required to ensure the payment of rents, payment of salaries of the personnel who would be employed by him, payment of electricity bills, and payment of miscellaneous expenses, and so on. So it depends on case to case basis how much liquidity is required. But if the business is not the home based, it would be good to have at least 1 year or 2 year sufficient cash buffer. Then establish good relationship with the bank so that short-term problems may be overcome with overdraft extension. Every bank gives the overdraft extension to the businesses, which means that they provide buffer, or they roll over the loan which the organization or business has taken. So this is only possible if the business relations with the bank are good. So every businessman or every new business owner is required to ensure that the relationship with the bank is maintained at a good level, so that if the need arises, they can arrange for overdraft extension. So establishing a good relationship with the bank is another point. And then we have effective credit control over credit period allowed to customers. It means that the business, if it is operating on the credit model, like they sell the products and allow the customers to pay after a certain period of time, let's say after 15 days or 30 days or 60 days. So at the initial stage of the new business, it is recommended that the credit period should not be large enough, because if the cash will not be inflowed, or if the customers would not pay to the company or business or enterprise within a very short period of time, so the company might face the working capital or liquidity issues. So effective credit control is also one of the strategies to avoid the working capital deficiencies. Now, as we are discussing about why do new businesses fail, first we learn about that lack of record keeping is one of the factors, then lack of cash and working capital, and now we have poor management skills. Poor management skills means that the entrepreneur or the businessman is not an experienced person and lacks the management skills, which might also cause businesses to shut down or fail. So, if the businessman is lacking the leadership skills, or if the businessman is lacking the cash handling and cash management skills, if the businessman or entrepreneur is lacking the planning, coordinating, decision making, and communication skills, or marketing, promotion, and selling skills, so all these factors contribute and lead to the business failure, because every business is required to be run by good leaders, and the leaders should have the sense of handling the cash, how the cash should be managed, where the cash should be deployed, and where the cash should be invested. Planning, coordinating, and decision making, and obviously the communication skills play a very important role in the success of every business. Marketing, promotion, and selling skills. Every business or enterprise is required to sell its product. Therefore, to sell the products, marketing of the product is required, promotion of the product is required, and ultimately, the selling skills should be there with the entrepreneur. or his or her team. So these were the factors behind the business failures. Here is an example in front of you, like an entrepreneur opening a new restaurant may be an excellent chef, but may lack management skills. So it is not necessary that if the entrepreneur is expert in something, uh, and at the same time the entrepreneur also have other management skills. So the lack of management skills would make this chef in a trouble position, or bring the person in the trouble position, and might lead to the closure of his restaurant business. So they may attend the training courses on the management skills to avoid the lack of management skills, and they may also employ staff or experienced staff with management experience. And obviously, if they employ other staff related to management skills, they have to pay the salaries and so on. Now, the other reason of failure of the business is changes in the business environment. Business environment means the market in which the business operates, or you can say if the business is situated in any particular city, and that city's dynamics is the business environment for that business. So business environment is dynamic or constantly changing. Why? Because new businesses are entering, competition is increasing day by day, new regulatory requirements are announced, customers demand more new services and more new types of products. Therefore, every business is facing some sort of competition and difficulty. And due to the changes in the business environment, or you can say the rapid changes in the business environment, may lead to the closure of the business, because every business cannot sustain in the rapidly changing business environment. Because if the business environment is constantly changing, it means that the business owner or the businessman should be smart enough to take the appropriate measures and implement the appropriate strategies to cope up with the changes in the business environment. And if the business owner does not is not of the type where he or she may think of the new strategies and implement those strategies with the passage of time, or with the changes in the business environment, so he or she might face difficulties, and they may shut down their businesses. So new competitors are entering. Legal changes means that new laws are being announced by the government or state, which the companies are required to follow, and those legal changes or requirements might put ban on the products of the company or business, so the business have to shut down. Let's suppose, for example, if the government announces a ban on particular type of medicine or drug, so the medicine company which was focusing on making that medicine or drug would be required to shut down its operations, and obviously the business would be shut down. And new technological changes also cause businesses to shut down, because technology requires investment, technology requires expertise by the professionals, and every new business might not be in a position to onboard the technological experts or the people with technology experience, because they are high paid people, and therefore due to the lack of technology or the lack of utilization of the new technology, the new businesses might be facing difficulties, and they may shut down their operations, and due to the lack of technological advancements, or due to lack of their skills in the technology side. So these were a few of the factors why do new businesses fail. Subscribe this channel for more CAI related lectures and videos, and we will be covering subjects one by one. And in this video, you discussed why do businesses fail, and I would again recommend you to watch the previous videos of the AS and A levels business, where we discussed the initial topics of the chapter number 1. So till the next video, take care.